Hi, this is Aruj Muzaffar from the Department of English, University of Southern Punjab. Today's lecture focuses on one of the most vibrant, influential, and enduring forms within the broader field of creative nonfiction, which is the literary journalism. This is a mode of writing that combines the factual rigor of journalism with the narrative richness of literature. It stands at the intersection of storytelling, reportage, and the writer's interpretation of reality. And over the last century and a half, literary journalism has shaped public understanding of events. It had expanded the limits of nonfiction prose and given us some of the most memorable writing in the English language. As students of creative nonfiction, understanding literary journalism is essential because it teaches us how to use narrative techniques, scenes, characters, dialogues, point of views, and in service of truth, how can we explore these perspectives. It also helps us question the nature of objectivity, the authority of the writer, and the ethical implications of representing real people in prose. In this lecture, we are going to explore its history, major Western writers, classical articles, stylistic features, and contemporary relevance. So let's begin by defining what actually literary journalism is and what it is not as well, obviously. Basically, literary journalism is a form of nonfiction that uses literary techniques to tell factual stories. It differs from conventional journalism in its depth, detail, and narrative strategies, and unlike traditional news reports that prioritize brevity, impartial tone, and the inverted pyramid, this structure is basically based on creating the immersive worlds, often following real individuals over long periods, and its aim is not simply to inform but to evoke, immerse, and interpret. A working definition often which is used is that this journalism is like the journalism that reads like literature while maintaining factual accuracy, which means that we are dealing with certain facts, but this journalism make us feel the reading of literature, and it means that the writer must adhere to verifiable facts while employing the tools of fiction. Scene construction, sensory details, dialogues, figurative language, symbolism, and narrative arcs. Let's discuss the key aspects that are there as a part of literary journalism, and first and foremost is accuracy. Accuracy and facticity are the description and the events that are described, they must have some traces of truth. They must be true based on careful observation, interviews, and research. And then there is the perspective that narrative storytelling must be there, and it unfolds with the beginning, middle, and end, or it is much like a short story or novel. We basically deal with scene over summary perspective, and literary journalists show events rather than merely telling us about them. A fully realized sense of place and character, where individuals are depicted with depth, complexity, and agency. The voice and perspective in the journalist style and tone, and sometimes even subjective viewpoint, shape the narrative. Long form is converted into depth, and the writing often covers extended reporting where months or years are spent with subjects. Interpretation over neutrality is focused, and though factual, literary journalism allows for the writer's insight and emotional. The historical perspective of it is often associated with the new journalism concept of 1960s and 70s. Its roots go far deeper. The blending of reporting and narrative prose can be traced back to the 19th century, where early influences have been by Charles Dickens, and before writing of his novel, Dickens had worked as a parliamentary reporter as well. His early sketches, such as the sketches by Bose, captured London street life with vivid details and journalistic observations. Mark Twain's travel narratives, which are named as The Innocents Abroad, roughing it, mixed fact, humor, and personal commentary. He embodied what would later become literary journalism, the subjectivity the narrator is explaining, witnessing as a real world. Stephen Crane and Jack London and Crane's Maggie and his war correspondence, along with London's reports from the slums of London, or his adventures, showed a commitment to immersive reporting. 20th century had been proved as a foundation stone into this history, where John Hersey's Hiroshima, published in the New Yorker, is one of the earliest modern masterpieces of literary journalism, which happened in the year 1946. It tells the story of the atomic bomb through the lives of six survivors, blending narratives with documentary precision. In the same way, the rise of magazine journalism, which happened mid-century between Esquire and Harper's and the New Yorker, provided space for long form of narrative, where editors like Harold Hayes encouraged experimentation. And the new journalism revolution, which occurred in 1960s to 70s, which was the period marked with formal recognition of literary journalism as a major creative form. And writers like Tom Wolfe, Hunter Thompson, Gay Tallis, and John Didison, they were the writers who transformed non-fiction by injecting storytelling, scene making, and personal voice. And so the new journalists had a great contribution to making this perspective are recognizable. Tom Wolfe not only practiced literary journalism, but he theorized it. His essay, The New Journalism, distinguished with this mode from traditional reporting works like the electric Kool-Aid acid test, which happened in 1968, and The Last American Hero demonstrates his trademark features, which are extravagant language, onomatopoeia, scene by scene construction, and deep immersions. The key contributions by those people who advocated for non-fiction writing that was as elaborate and energetic as fiction, emphasized and structured scenes, details, dialogues, and a novelist's pacing, which expanded the boundaries of journalistic style. There are certain writers like Capote in his Cold Blood 1966. It is often considered the first non-fiction novel, a book that uses fictional techniques but presents a true crime story. And Capote conducted hundreds of hours of interviews and recreated scenes with the malicious details. The contributions that these writers had over this demonstrated how a journalistic subject with any murder case or any thing which had happened into the interest or harm of humanity, that could be or that could become a literary art, which introduced moral complexity and psychological depth to nonfiction, and it established the notion of immersive reporting over years. Didison blended personal narratives, social observation, and cultural critique, and her collections are slouching. And all of this he had done to experiment another perspective, which was based on the things that have been borrowed from the history and included certain perspectives that were based on the historical facts, and then she combined them into the form of fiction. And this combination proved to be a creation of another genre of literature, which was a topic of great interest for the readers, and especially today readers are very much interested into this form of journalism because it provides multiple angles of looking at the tragedy that happened into human history, and it provides the synthetic details, and each and every perspective is prescribed by telling specific time period, places, characters, dialogues, actions, and sensory details. This gives the writing cinematic quality and emotional resonance. And of course, the dialogues are recorded and reconstructed to convey the tension and the practices that require accuracy. These detailed characterization, physical appearances, motivations, and psychology, social and cultural context, point of views, they do vary, but they do contribute to making the voice as the central literary journalism. Unlike traditional journalism, which attempts neutrality, literary journalists cultivate distinctive personal styles, and these styles are of great importance to the writers. I hope this introduction of this sort of journalism is understandable for you. Thank you so much.